and I looked at the reaction yesterday to the interviews we did yesterday on this issue of free speech at universities. And the apparent, well, they say it's a postponement, but we all know what cancel culture looks like when it's happening. And that a panel discussion on freedom of speech that was to be held at Victoria University has been basically derailed by a bunch of wokesters claiming that Jonathan Aileen from the Free Speech Union practices hate speech because he's just, and we got to the kind of the bottom of this yesterday. Part of the weird logic they're using is that the Free Speech Union supports the free speech of people like Julian Batchelor, and some people think Julian Batchelor is a racist, therefore that makes the Free Speech Union and Jonathan Ailing a racist, and therefore Jonathan Ailing is too dangerous to speak about free speech at Victoria University. Yes, folks, that is the twisted logic of what is going on here. And a twisted logic that we've heard from David Seymour this morning. The ACT Party would actually pass some rules that say you can't be that stupid and you can't be that woke if you're a university. How big is this problem? How close might we be to the sort of stupidity we're seeing on campuses like Columbia and the craziness we see in institutions like Harvard in the United States? Well, one academic, one professor who has never been afraid about speaking out on this stuff, even I suspect at the cost perhaps of his job, is Professor Grant Schofield from Auckland University of Technology. He's been on the show last year. We've got him back on now. Grant, lovely to talk to you again, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, Sean. Good.
What are you making of what you're seeing around this event at Victoria University?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're pretty much on the button. This idea that simply because you don't like an idea means that it shouldn't be discussed probably ends up having the exact opposite effect of causing more harm than good. I mean, I think you take a step back and go, what's the bigger picture? It's like we've got a legal framework, and you can't say anything you want. Like if you're going on to the Victoria University campus and you've got a discussion about how to build bombs to, blow up the Inter-Islander ferry or something, well, probably, you can't do that. 3D printing weapons to shoot people or something.
No, so that's crime.
We have a law. We have all that. That's already in place. But when it steps out of that and you start to go, well, it's hate, this sort of ill-defined labelling, then universities run into trouble. And I suppose, Sean, the one thing I want to say here is I don't think people understand that every business, every institution over history eventually goes out of business. And, we've seen this with the media at the moment. And just because no one in living history remembers universities not being relevant doesn't mean they couldn't become that. And
irrelevant.
I think they become irrelevant and they're not a business proposition. And, even from a business sense, it makes sense to be, just like it makes sense for the media to be centrists and to consider points of view and have decent arguments about it. It makes even more sense, because this is the way science is done, for universities to have that very centrist point of view. And Victoria University, well, actually, it's not so much the university, it's the Students' Association that is now running the university. And that's a shame. I'll give you another example of what the Students' Association has done recently. They were trying to decide whether they want to get all students back on campus.
Yeah.
Clearly, in my view, it's a good idea for students to be on campus. The university thinks that. The Student Association got involved and said, no. Some students may get triggered. They may not feel good coming on campus. They may not feel safe. So all lectures in the law school now need to be run in dual mode, so students can, potentially never come to campus. You're trained to be a lawyer, you've never come on campus, never debated, never engaged. Now, clearly that's a ridiculous situation. The Student Association's driven that, and so not only are they not having the effect they want for their students, they're having the exact opposite. They're going to make a bunch of people come out of this place with nothing.
But eventually the students are going to say, look, we don't actually think you should have to pass exams or know anything about what you're doing, as long as we have the right diversity of people getting degrees.
I think eventually parents have a big influence on young people going to university, and then as we get older, we all make decisions. You're only half the population won't want to come because they, at least half the population aren't hard on the political left. They're more centrist, and some will be right, and you're excluding them on ideology. It's a ridiculous situation.
All right. What do you think Vic should do about this event and the attempted cancellation of Jonathan Ayling?
I mean, I find the stuff about... I've interacted with Jonathan. I've found him an all-round decent bloke, to be honest. And I think, again, what the Students' Association say Jonathan is and stands for is the exact opposite of actually what he does, at least in my experience. So that's one thing. The second thing is have it, for God's sake. I mean, AUT's going to have one. I'm booking out some rooms to have a discussion about this. In
who with, Grant? Who have you invited along?
Well, I'm actually we've got some academics coming, and just a sort of general discussion of academics within the university about free speech. I don't expect that to be cancelled. I can't imagine.
When was that due to be held?
I think we're looking at May the 13th.
I hope I haven't stuffed it up. So, and what's the name of the meeting? What's it titled?
I'll get that through to you, but at the moment I'm just trying to do it for internal
Why don't you call it F Your Safe Space and see how that goes down?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is at universities, I mean, there's another aspect to this, which is that academics have been afraid to say stuff, right? I feel that shifted a bit with the change in government, and while people aren't back to where we were, there's widespread appetite from academics. So I think academics unfairly get labelled with the same leftist brush as everyone else. And I mean, if anyone's listening to this as an academic, my call on you is don't be a chicken shit. Be prepared to have your say, but do it within the law, for God's sake. You're not going to go and break the law, and no one does that. So,
Grant, do you feel safer exercising free speech as an academic than you did before the election?
Oh, 100%.
Wow.
I think I do, and I do.
Yeah.
For
what
me,
about your colleagues? And do you feel more comfortable in the staff room?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's more discussion about topics. It's like, you can't really say that. And I was like, well, we are. And then there's a shrug of a shoulder now, which I think's, hopefully there's some movement back. But Sean, like anything, I often had to counsel, young academics, making their way through the system, and they'd always be like, the university this and the university that, and AUT, like it's some amorphous creature. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of empty buildings,